The Many Origins of Scootaloo by Defender 22. Chapter 8. Chapter 8. Fluttershy. Twilight groaned. The last thing she remembered was being warped into a meadow, and then nothing. Just a blinding flash of light and the smell of burning hair.
Shh, it's okay,
A voice said, wetting her brow with a washcloth.
Everything is all right.
Twilight mumbled something, her eyelids fluttering silently to see. Fluttershy! Wasn't that convenient? The Pegasus let out an eep when she saw that Twilight had awoken so suddenly, darting up into the air before finally calming herself and settling down to attend to her patient. What happened?
You exploded,
Fluttershy stated.
At least, I think you did. I heard a loud boom and I was afraid some poor little grizzly bear got hurt, so I went out to check. But there wasn't a grizzly bear, just you lying in a crater.
Twilight rubbed her aching head. Well, I'm glad it wasn't a table this time.
Me too. I don't know how to take care of tables.
You okay, Twilight? Spike asked as he walked into the room, towel wrapped around his waist. While his dragon scales had protected him from the blast, the explosion left him covered in soot. Fluttershy offered him use of her bathroom to clean himself up. Man, that was some explosion, huh? Yeah, Twilight grunted. It was real fun.
Why did you explode, Twilight?
Fluttershy asked softly, re-wetting her sponge before running along her friend's brow. It's stupid.
Well, you don't have to tell me if you don't want to, but you are the smartest pony I know, so there's no way something stupid could get you flustered. So it must be something smart, right?
Twilight gave her friend a soft smile, placing her hoof on top of hers. Thank you.
For what?
For just being you. Gag me, Spike muttered, going back into the bathroom and shutting the door. All the lovey-dovey stuff was making him feel dirty again. Boys! Twilight Fluttershy muttered before breaking into giggles. Twilight laid back onto the bed, letting out a peaceful sigh. She wanted to take the morning off, but it was clear she had gone about the wrong way. She used to have come here, to Fluttershy's cottage, in the first place. It was utterly peaceful, with the birds chirping, the bees buzzing, and Angel plotting his assassination of Fancy Pants. The backstory of their long and epic feud would take 3 full nights to tell, and even then, all one would get would be the abridged version. Twilight laid back down on her pillow, a smile slowly blossoming on her lips.
Twilight?
Fluttershy said softly.
What were you so mad about? You never did say.
Oh, Twilight said lazily, waving her hoof dismissively. I was just trying to figure out where Scootaloo came from, and everyone was telling me their own crazy story.
Can I tell you mine?
Twilight's eyes snapped open like a cheap window blinds. Fluttershy, not you too! Twilight closed her eyes, fighting the tears she knew were coming. I thought of all ponies, you wouldn't give it to gossip.
Oh, this isn't gossip,
Fluttershy said.
I don't know what Scootaloo's history is.
The unicorn's head jerked up. She stared at her friend, trying to comprehend exactly what she was getting at. But then, what do you... Fluttershy chewed on her lower lip.
Pinkie Pie told me about Everypony telling you stories about what they think Scootaloo's origin is, and it just sounded so fun, I kinda maybe came up with a story of my own.
Fluttershy looked down, her long mane hiding her face.
I know it isn't real and isn't what you're looking for, but I thought maybe, possibly.
Twilight reached over and gently pressed Fluttershy's mane aside so she could look her in the eye. Fluttershy, I would love to hear your fictional story about Scootaloo. Her friend visibly brightened, and Twilight settled in for the tale. Knowing Fluttershy, it's probably some sweet little story about Scootaloo being raised by bunnies.
Take Asia, 3 years ago,
Fluttershy said dramatically.
The scene? A steamy nightclub controlled by the Black Stripe Mafia.
Say what now?
And give them the old hustle tussle.
Charity the Belle was singing her heart out on the stage, giving each and every note as much power as she could muster. The stunning aqua-colored unicorn took a moment to turn and give her flank a little shake, causing all the tigers watching her to cheer and howl in delight. She knew what the boys liked. She wasn't to disappoint them. Her low, sultry voice seemed to swirl about the room, entrancing all that heard it like a siren song. Well, Almost everyone. Sitting at the bar with a wall to her back, Daring Do watched the performance and rolled her eyes. Why any mayor would go up on stage and face the catcalls Charity was getting was simply unknown to the treasure hunter. Of course, the entire club scene was lost on her. The scent of spiced rum and incense filled the air like a heavy cloud, making the Pegasus' lungs ache with every breath. She had been forced to actually dress up, ditching her pith helmet and going with a red evening dress that made her feel like a painted-up fool. All she wanted to do was leap up and dash out there as fast as she could. But that simply wouldn't do. Not if she wanted to get the Cat's Eye Diamond. As she waited for her contact to arrive, Daring looked around the club, getting a feel for the environment. Over by the poker tables, there were several earth ponies gambling up a storm, including a purple mare with an eye patch who had hidden blades stuck in her tail. A few tables over from them, a dolled-up yellow unicorn was whispering something clearly steamy in her girlfriend's ear, if the blush on the green Pegasus' face was any indication. Up on the balcony, a pitch-black earth pony was holding court, her long straight hair the color of fallen snow and making it look as if she were an old black-and-white photo. Intermixed with all these rough and tough figures were tigers, each wearing a business suit and bearing a ring on their tail that showed their allegiance to the Black Stripe Mafia, the most dreaded crime seeker in Tigacia. Daring had walked into a hornet's nest all right. She'd need to keep her nerves steady and eyes open if she were to survive. It was that focus that alerted her to the small, purple Pegasus filly with a stalk of orange hair who was trying to pick her pocket. Fluttershy?
Oh, is something wrong? Do you need another pillow?
Fluttershy asked, concerned for her friend's comfort. No, I'm fine. It's just... Twilight's jaw worked, as he was chewing on a pad pear. When you said you were going to tell me a story, I thought you were going to tell me an original one.
But I am.
Twilight shook her head, patting Fluttershy's hoof. But Daring Do is a fictional character that someone else created.
Right.
Fluttershy looked at her friend confused.
I'm the one that created her.
In this story.
In all her stories,
the Pegasus said.
I'm the author of Daring Do. That hack AK Yearling doesn't know what she's doing.
No, you're not. Fluttershy frowned.
I think so. Why would my agent keep accepting my manuscripts?
Fluttershy wasn't being sarcastic. Fluttershy honestly wanted to know. Twilight shook her head, getting annoyed with her shy friend. There were times when Fluttershy was so naive. Listen, you aren't getting it. Twilight used her magic to grab a copy of Daring Do for Fluttershy's self. She was surprised to find it looked a bit different than the one she had read, older and heavier. See, it says right here, by F.S. Braveheart.
Right. Fluttershy Braveheart.
You're joking. Fluttershy took her head.
I don't think so. Unless I told one of those sneaky jokes rarities sometimes.
But... Twilight saw that the copy she was holding was in fact a rare, out-of-print first edition of one of the first Daring Do novels. Turning it over, she could only stare, her jaw hanging to the floor, at the sight of Fluttershy's picture gracing the cover. The Pegasus was sitting at her writing desk, one hoof propping up her chin and a slight smile on her face.
I thought you girls knew,
Fluttershy said softly.
How do you think I pay for all my furry little friends' food?
I thought, maybe, Fluttershy smiled.
Oh, Twilight, do you think Ponyville paid me to take care of animals?
At Twilight's sight nod, the Pegasus laughed.
That's silly. Who would pay for that? No, caring for animals is a hobby. Writing is how I make my bits.
She furrowed her brow.
Are you sure you didn't know?
Fluttershy, if we knew, we would have been begging you for details.
I thought you were respecting my privacy.
Twilight made a sound that sounded like a cross between a squeak and a snob.
Does that mean you want me to stop telling me the story? It's my new manuscript, so I still have to edit.
Tell me more now! Twilight roared, shaking her friend so hard she saw stars. I mean, yes, I would like you to continue, Twilight said demurely.
Oh, okay.
What do you think you're doing, kid? Daring Do said, snatching the little filly's hoof just as it went for the briefcase sitting on the floor. Just dropped something, the filly exclaimed too loudly. Well, go look for it somewhere else, Daring snarked, as he saw her training partner come marching over to her. That isn't for you. Trust me. The filly gave her a hard look, and Daring, low aside, reached into her saddlebag, pulled out a few bits, tossing them to the sun filly. Go get yourself something to eat, Squirt. The filly happily nodded and tarted off. And not a moment too soon. Mr. Redclaw, head of the Blackstripe Mafia, purred. He took a seat next to the explorer, making her feel very small compared to his bulk. Redclaw was almost twice her size, 5 times her weight. His black suit strained to contain his gut, and every breath seemed to threaten to send buttons flying everywhere. And so, I enjoy it better when I have the cat's eye diamond. Straight to the point. I love it. Redclaw leaned in close, licking his fangs. But first, my money. Daringdew nodded, reaching down and retrieving the briefcase she had been guarding. Every last bit's there. Redclaw was particularly drooling as he clutched the case to his chest, drawing it in like a lost lover. However, he noticed Daring wasn't smiling. This is a double cross, isn't it? He looked at her hoof, examining it as she continued, her tone utterly bored. I knew the moment I got your message, you would try and take the money and run. Sorry, but that is the life we lead, Redclaw said calmly. No problem. That's why I came prepared. She raised her hooves up and clicked them together. The nightclub burst into activity. Charity stopped singing her song, and in fluid motion used her magic to send 3 tigers flying through the air.
Mother always said I was sweeping the boys off their feet,
she said with a chuckle. Wait a minute. That sounds like... The mare with knives hidden in her tail made good use of them, letting them fly with a Swiss and sending 2 tigers to the ground, their dead eyes staring into the ceiling. Don't you all get too cocky now, Charity! Acorn Jade said with a laugh. Ha ha! Save that for Starburst! The 2 lovers that Daring had noticed earlier pulled away from each other, and with a nod, went on the attack. Starburst and Klitz blasted 5 tigers with her magic, while, whispering, true to her name, merely spoke the word freeze, and all the tigers that had been caught in her gaze could do nothing but stare at them like fools. Fluttershy, did you?
I want to play! Oh, I want to play too!
The Black Earth Pony said with delight. Girls, go get 'em! Yes, Coco Delight! The hanger-on said, leaping from the balcony and assaulting any tiger they could find, spinning and leaping about like ninjas. You did. Oh, Celestia, you did!
Are you mad?
Mad? Mad's the exact opposite of what I'm feeling! Keep talking! Daring grabbed the case and used it to strike Redclaw. Too bad you lived up to my expectations. Ready? Daring gave him a mock salute and drove away to raise Tiger. Girls!
Darling, always a delight,
Charity said with a roll of her eyes.
Well, you certainly know how to throw a shindig, Daring.
Coco giggled, taking a moment to grab a plate and send it flying like a ninja star. Well, I figured since we hadn't seen each other since college, we should get together, Daring said with a smirk. Most ponies have tea parties or brunch, Daring, Starburst reminded her. Whisperwind merely nodded. Daring rolled her eyes. Oh, come on, that is so boring. This is like 20% cooler than a tea party. Oh, 20? Well, it would be 50% if I were the only one here. No offense. That is so Rainbow Dash. Why, how did I not see this sooner?
Well, yes, I based Daringdew off of Rainbow Dash because she is so amazing. Then, after meeting the rest of you, I decided I wanted the rest of my friends to be in the story. Twilight, do you want me to stop?
Don't you dare! Now, Talican. The one-eyed Night Thrower snarked. She glanced around, realizing that while they had taken the early advantage, the Blackstripe Mafia was regrouping, and soon the battle would turn in their favor. Think we could get out of here? Daring grinned, reaching for the door they had been backed into. Right, let's... She jiggled the handle, only to find it locked. Give me a moment. You didn't check the door? Starburst said, eyes slowly narrowing. Sure I did! Just give me a moment! We don't have a moment, darlings! Charity reminded them, nodding toward the advancing horde.
Can you use your magic?
Coco asked, watching as her girls fled a fair number of tigers out of the club. Starburst focused on the lock, glowering. It's been warned against spells! Pony feathers! Hey! The six mares turned to see a little pickpocket motioning for them to follow her behind the curtain on the main stage. Come on! Think we can trust her? Acorn Jane asked. One of her own knives came whizzing over her head, just missing her ears. Never mind, just answer my own question. The mares leapt onto the stage, darting behind the curtain to find the purple filly holding open a trap door. Come on! Thanks, Squirt, Darry said, grabbing the girl and tossing her onto her back as they darted down the secret passage. Got a name, kiddo? Tag along! The Pegasus said happily, wings buzzing like a hummingbird's. Figures. Twilight leaned closer, eyes wide. Well, did they escape? Is Rainbow Dash going to adopt Scootaloo? I mean, is Darry going to adopt Tag along?
I don't know. This is as far as I've gotten. I usually don't plot the books out too far. Makes it more organic.
I can't believe this, Twilight squealed, not paying attention to Fluttershy in the slightest. My best friend brings Darry Do. She based Darry Do on one of her friends. I'm friends with the real Darry Do. Twilight's eyes took on an almost manic look. And I met Darry Do. I go on an adventure with her. Do we get to Cat's Eye Diamond?
You know the character's only based on you, and you're breathing kind of hard.
Twilight wasn't even paying attention to her. I wonder if I'll get a love interest. Maybe that pilot for Darry Do in the Castle of Torment. He sounds like a tear. Well, if he cheats on me, will Darry be mad if I drive him away?
Darry isn't real,
Fluttershy said as Twilight began to hyperventilate.
Twilight? Twilight?
The unicorn's eyes rolled back into her head as he fell against the mattress.
Twilight!
Fluttershy leapt up onto the bed, panicking when she saw that the unicorn was out cold. Fear caused her to be unable to focus as she reacted on instinct. She began to perform CPR.
Come on! Come on!
Fluttershy whimpered, leaning down and breathing into her friend's mouth. Okay, Twilight, Spice said, emerging from the bathroom. I think I'm all clear. Twilight, awoken by Spike's scream, looking up to find Fluttershy giving her a deep kiss. Or, that's how it looked to her. Ah! Fluttershy screamed. Ah! All three howled. Fluttershy, it's me, Mrs. Cake. I was bringing a donut order and I heard screaming. Mrs. Cake blinked at the sight of Fluttershy, straddling Twilight while Spike watched. Rainbow Dash is going to be so upset when she finds that you're cheating on her. The beggar stepped out, leaving the three friends to stare at each other, and began screaming again. Chapter 9. Lyra Heartstrings. Another tea with lemon? Twilight nodded, and the waiter darted off to get another cup for the unicorn. All along the table, empty glasses stood like noble soldiers, and Twilight was anxious to add to their ranks. Her throat burned for nearly 15 minutes of screaming back at Fluttershy's cottage. Twilight found it so painful to talk that she resorted to nods and written notes in order to let the waiter at Ponyville Cafe know what she wanted. She had chosen tea with lemon to help ease the pain, and to get the taste of Fluttershy out of her mouth. Whoever had taught Fluttershy that CPR involves the tongue was going to get such a beating. Spike had went running back to the library as soon as Fluttershy had managed to find the strength to get off the bed, crying that he was afraid that he was next to be assaulted. Fluttershy, for her part, had asked Twilight if she needed to make her breakfast, as, according to Rainbow Dash, that is what one did after a night of lovemaking. And Twilight simply didn't have the strength to inform her friend that misguided CPR was not a sex act. News to me. Twilight, for her part, was debating sending threatening letters to Princess Celestia in the hope of getting banished to Lock of the Dungeon. At this point, she was sure that either option was her only hope for keeping her sanity. Hello, Twilight, Lyra said, happily trotting over to the unicorn. Twilight raised an eyebrow, and Lyra's smile fell. Yeah, I didn't get a chance to apologize after the wedding. Sorry about that. You know, helping that evil changeling queen help capture you, and then trying to kill you. If it makes you feel better, I was so sick once to cure me, I couldn't get out of bed for a week. Twilight sighed and quickly scribbled a note down. Don't worry, I don't blame you. I'm glad to hear that, Twilight. Lyra suddenly got a strange smile on her face. So, I hear you are joining our team. Twilight shot a confused look. You know, once you go Philly, you'll know Stallions are silly, Rainbow Dash, and Fluttershy. When you try something new, you certainly don't take any chances. Twilight rapidly shook her head, scribbling another note. I am not dating Fluttershy or Rainbow Dash. Twilight, Who said anything about dating? Lyra gave her a long, leisurely look. If Bonbon and I weren't exclusive. Twilight frantically tried to write another message, but her haste caused her to come out as Glabber Gobber Smooze! Smooze? Twilight, even I don't swing that way. Lyra waved over to the lair, missing Twilight's furious pantomiming of her strangling the teal-colored pony, and ordered herself some apple juice. Twilight, for her part, focused on drinking and ordering another glass of tea. So, I've been hearing through the grapevine, and by that I mean Mrs. Cake, that you want to know more about that orange filly Scootaloo. Lyra pressed her hope to her chest. Well, I happen to know her secret origin, and I would be happy to share it with you. Twilight rapidly shook her head. No. No. No, you can't believe I know the whole story of Scootaloo? Well, I do, as hard as it is to believe. I should warn you now, this is a very sad, tragic tale, and you will cry for hours upon hearing it. Much like you are now. Twilight sniffed, sobbing and slightly pleading for Celestia to strike her down and save her from hearing yet another Scootaloo story. All right, our story begins in a magical land called London. 8-year-old Rebecca Scoots shivered in the cold, pressing herself tight against the brick wall in the hopes of keeping the cold from seeping through the thin jacket she wore. The dark sky was unleashing a flurry of snow that the young girl was constantly brushing off her head and shoulders. She watched, amazed that such pure white fluff could become so dark and dirty upon coming into contact with the ground. People walked past, their shoes grinding fresh snow into muddy puddles that splashed against her, soaking her ripped pants. They were too busy to worry about one homeless girl. She knew it was foolish to be out in this kind of weather, but there simply wasn't any place for her to go. She had left home a week ago, unable to stand being around her father for another moment. The man was either wallowing in depression or striking her in a drunken rage. She might have managed to live with such treatment if it weren't for the cruel words he would forever hurl in her direction about how stupid she was, how she was good for nothing, and how she should be dead instead of her mother. She could even get the thought out without crying, lowering her head and whimpering over, "Mommy, Mommy." Her mother had been dead for 4 years now, and Rebecca clung to the memories of the brash, adventurous woman that loved to run through the park and never faced any challenge she wasn't ready to tackle head on. She was like the storm and the rainbow rolled into one. Every day since that night long ago, when her mother had been caught in that car explosion, Rebecca had clung to the memory of the woman that meant more to her than anything. She could still hear her voice calling out to her. Scootaloo. That was her nickname, the only one her mother knew. Scootaloo. The streets grew darker and the world a bit emptier as the passers-by hurried off to their parties and get-togethers. None of them gave a chance to the little girl shivering in a doorway. Rebecca reached into her pocket and pulled out a book of matches, her fingers trembling as she struck the fingers. Lyra looked at Twilight in disgust. Didn't your mother teach you it's rude to interrupt someone when they're talking? Why would a pony have fingers? Twilight croaked. Oh, oh, I forgot to mention that. Duh, sorry about that, Twilight. I just got wrapped up in telling my tragic Scootaloo story. She has fingers because she's a human. Twilight just gave the mare a blank look. Human? She wheezed, her throat feeling as she see it just gargled with frogs. Yes, You know what humans, right? She clasped her hands together and sighed dreamily. They are simply the most beautiful of magical creatures, with their hairless bodies, big feet, and flat faces, and exposed reproductive organs. But, most of all, the hands, Twilight, the hands. She glared down at her host in disgust. They have fingers instead of these nubs. It would be a dream come true. Twilight suddenly had a vision of Lyra with hands like spikes and shivered, mostly because, judging from the manic eye when she spoke of them, Twilight was sure Lyra would use said hands to strangle ponies while laughing like a supervillain. Now then, back to the tragic tale. Rebecca was ready to give up. Her body was consumed by shivers. The falling snow was burying her. She no longer had the strength to brush it away. Little burnt matches lay like twigs about her as she struck another one, her last one, trying to gather warmth from the tiny flame. It was an impossible task. There simply wasn't enough light from that tiny spark to chase away the darkness that threatened to swallow her whole. It didn't matter. Nothing mattered. Rebecca was ready to go. Her eyes felt heavy, and sleep was calling her. She wondered. Would she dream? She hoped so. She hoped that she would dream with her mommy. But as the last match burnt away, as she felt her heart slow to a near stop, Rebecca saw that the light had not dimmed, but instead was growing all the more brighter. She held up her hand, trying to shield her eyes, and found, to her amazement, she was warm. Steam hissed from her clothing as it was dried out, and the shivers left her body as she felt the glorious warmth fill her limbs. The snow melted away as the alley was illuminated by an intense flare.
Am I dead?
She whispered softly,
Mommy?
I am sorry, child, but I am not your mother, and this is not heaven. Rebecca blinked against the bright light, her eyes adjusting and allowing herself to see the most blessed of sights. An angel! For what else could the woman be but an angel? Two great white wings stretched from her back, each feather looking softer than anything the child had ever touched in her short, sad life. The figure's white dress was as pure as the falling snow, and Rebecca suddenly felt ashamed of her dirty, ratty clothes. But when she turned away, a dainty hand touched her cheek and drew her eyes back. The angel wore a grand golden crown that ended in a single white spike. No, a horn. And her hair was the color of the sky at sunrise, constantly whirling about her.
Who are you?
Rebecca whispered. The angel smiled sadly. I am Celestia, and I am so sorry I could not come sooner. I saw the pain you were in and hurried, but I was almost too late. The angel moved her hand down to Rebecca's shoulder, and with a touch the child felt every pain and ache leave her. But I am here now.
What's happening?
Rebecca shifted, her whole body tingling from the tips of her toes to the ends of her hair. I come from a special place, a wonderful place. It is a land full of magic, joy, and friendship. Whenever I find a person who's been hurt and dying, who has been abandoned by those that should love them, I come to them and take them home. Home? The little girl asked, looking down at her hands to see that they were beginning to glow. Yes, home. The angel smiled as the girl's body was engulfed in a wondrous light. And soon the two of them in the alley, until there was nothing but it and Rebecca as they felt as easy become light as well, and it her, and the two would never become separated. And then, as soon as it had come, it was gone. Rebecca looked about, stunned. The dark and filthy alley had been replaced by a kingdom of clouds, each one fluffy and white, framed by the beautiful blue sky. The sun shone down on them. Rebecca let out a tiny gasp as she looked toward her angel, who was no longer an angel, but a powerful and regal winged unicorn.
You changed.
So have you, Celestia said. Rebecca looked down, eyes wide as she looked over herself. She had turned into a Pegasus as well. Her little wings buzzed as she looked over the orange skin and used her hose to pull a tuft of her purple mane close enough to see it. She began to trot around Celestia, marveling at all she saw. For the first time since her mother had died, she felt strong and healthy, and there were no words to describe it. Here, you will be safe. You will never grow hungry or cold. My little ponies will. Rebecca raced over and hugged Celestia tightly. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Celestia turned to hug. I think there's someone else who wants to say hello to you. Celestia pointed to Rebecca, and the little girl, Philly, turned to stare at the new arrival. A cyan-colored Pegasus with a mane the color of a rainbow. Hey, Scootaloo, Rainbow Dash said softly.
Mommy?
Rebecca whispered, tears in her eyes. Rainbow Dash merely nodded, and Rebecca raced to her, hugging the mare and sobbing and nuzzling her, never wanting to let go. Rainbow Dash wrapped her forelegs around the filly, Tears rolled down her cheeks as she held the shivering child close to her chest. It's okay, baby. Mommy's here, and she is never going to leave you again. Twilight sniffed, body racked with sobs. The waiter, who had come to collect their glasses, handed her a tissue, then used one himself to dab away the tears. Lyra, too, was welling up, desperately trying to fight the sobs that threatened to come bursting from her. So sad. But at least it had a happy ending, Twilight said, her throat feeling well enough for her to actually talk. I mean, I know that story isn't true, but if at least Scootaloo and Rainbow Dash were united. That isn't a happy ending! Lyra suddenly sounded, startling the unicorn. What? She was a human! And that horrible Celestia turned her into a pony! It took away her beloved hands! Twilight's tears disappeared in an instant. Sadness and joy replaced by an emotion she knew all too well. Annoyance. She was going to die! As a human! Lyra snarled. You've got a problem, Lyra. The teal-colored unicorn lunged at Twilight, shaking her foot violently. Yes! One problem! I don't have hands! And all my problems would go away if I had them. Why don't I have them? I deserve to have them! Give them to me! You have magic. So magic me up some hands now, or I'll slam! Lyra's eyes rolled back, a large bump forming on her forehead, where her skull had met the table. With a groan, she collapsed to the ground, leaving a spooked Twilight looking at her. Huh. Kind of weird to see it from the other side. Twilight glanced up to save her, only for her jaw to drop. Princess Luna? No one thinks the daughter I had found out just about 3 hours ago! Luna said, coolly, before hurrying over and scooping Twilight up, curling her like a baby. Don't worry. Mommy's here, and she is never going to leave you again. Lyra! Help! Twilight squeaked as Luna's wings unfurled as she took to the sky. Twilight wrapped up in her forelegs.